Dr. Evelyn Wright, a seasoned astrophysicist with a gaze as sharp as distant galaxies, stood transfixed before the anomaly. It wasn't a new blip on the radar, a faint echo from a distant star. This was a persistent thrumming, a rhythmic pulse emanating from a previously unrecorded sector of deep space. Unlike any known celestial signal, it pulsed with an unnerving coherence, almost sentient. Weeks of tireless analysis yielded nothing. The signal defied categorization. It wasn't a natural phenomenon, nor any man-made transmission. The rhythmic thrumming wormed into Evelyn's dreams, a constant, maddening beat that chipped away at her sanity. Driven by a morbid curiosity and a thirst for discovery, she convinced a reluctant international team to embark on a mission, a one-way trip to the source. The journey was a desolate affair. The vast emptiness of space pressed down on them, a constant reminder of their fragile existence. The rhythmic pulse grew louder, a hypnotic drumbeat that filled the sterile confines of the ship. Crew members started exhibiting strange behavior, bouts of insomnia, sleepwalking, and an unsettling detachment. Their eyes, once filled with the spark of exploration, now held a vacant, almost fatal glint. The source, a colossal, obsidian monolith, hung suspended in the inky blackness. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, resonating in perfect harmony with the signal. As they drew closer, an irresistible urge, a primal call, washed over them. It was a telepathic summons, a beckoning that bypassed logic and resonated deep within their primal core. One by one, crew members succumbed. They disembarked, drawn like moths to a flame, their faces etched with a mixture of terror and morbid fascination. Evelyn, her mind a battlefield of scientific reasoning and primal fear, watched in horror as her team, her colleagues, her friends, approached the monolith. As they neared, the monolith pulsed with renewed intensity, bathing them in an unearthly glow. Their bodies contorted, their screams turning into inhuman gurgles. Their flesh rippled and warped, morphing into grotesque parodies of their former selves. The once human shapes melded together, their individuality dissolving into a pulsating, amorphous mass. Evelyn, the sole survivor, watched in paralyzed terror as the monstrosity pulsed with a grotesque symphony of voices, a chorus of her crewmates' mutated screams. It throbbed with a malevolent intelligence, a hunger that transcended the physical. Then, with a final earth-shattering pulse, the monstrosity turned its attention to her. The telepathic call intensified, a cacophony of voices promising oblivion, a chorus of twisted whispers urging her to join the collective. Evelyn fought back, clinging to the vestiges of her sanity. She activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, a desperate act of defiance against the encroaching cosmic horror. The countdown echoed in her ears, a grim counterpoint to the pulsing monolith. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of grief and a chilling realization. The universe wasn't just vast and indifferent. It harbored horrors beyond human comprehension, entities that hungered for not just our flesh, but our very souls. As the ship erupted in a blinding fireball, Evelyn's scream joined the chorus, a final defiant note in the symphony of cosmic terror. The anomaly remained, a silent sentinel in the void, a chilling testament to the horrors that lurked in the darkest corners of the universe, waiting for the next unsuspecting vessel, the next curious mind to answer its call. The rhythmic pulse continued, a faint echo amidst the cosmic silence, a promise of encounters to come, encounters that would leave nothing but a chilling symphony of screams in their wake. Sarah, a seasoned park ranger with a weathered face and a heart full of wilderness, felt a disquiet she couldn't shake. The wind in Redwood National Park had always held a mournful song, but lately it carried something more, a sibilant whisper, just on the edge of perception. It wormed into her sleep, a language of clicks and hisses that sent shivers down her spine. One morning, on a routine patrol, Sarah stumbled upon a clearing deep in the heart of the ancient forest. Towering redwoods, their branches clawing at the sky, encircled a perfectly circular patch of barren earth. An unnatural stillness hung in the air, broken only by the insistent whispering that seemed to emanate from the ground itself. She felt a morbid pull towards the center, a primal curiosity warring with a chilling sense of wrongness. As she stepped into the clearing, the whispering intensified, morphing into distinct voices, a chorus of something alien and unsettling. Fear clawed at her throat, but a ranger's duty propelled her forward. Kneeling at the center, she noticed a faint, shimmering disk embedded in the soil. Its surface pulsed with an eerie light, casting distorted shadows on the surrounding trees. The voices grew louder, clearer, forming words in a language that defied human understanding. Panic surged through Sarah. An unseen presence pressed against her mind, cold and alien, probing at her thoughts, her fears. Images flashed into her mind, grotesque, shifting forms of pure darkness, their eyes burning with an unholy hunger. She screamed, a primal cry of terror that echoed through the silent redwoods. Suddenly, the disk erupted in a blinding light. Time seemed to warp, the world around her dissolving into a swirling vortex of colors and sounds. When it finally subsided, Sarah found herself standing in a desolate landscape, devoid of life. A sickly yellow sun hung low in the sky, casting grotesque shadows on the twisted, skeletal remains of what might have once been trees. The alien voices surrounded her now, no longer whispers, but roars of primal hunger. The chilling images that had invaded her mind solidified before her. Monstrous, serpentine creatures with skin like obsidian and eyes that burned with malevolent light. Sarah wasn't alone. Other figures stood transfixed, snatched from their own worlds, their faces etched with terror. The creatures slithered closer, their hisses forming a chilling chorus. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a feeding ground, a place where the creatures gathered prey from across the vast expanse of space. Sarah, fueled by a primal desire to survive, noticed something. The creatures seemed to avoid stepping on the perfectly circular patches of barren earth. A sliver of hope flickered within her. Maybe, just maybe, it was a weakness, a boundary they couldn't cross. She gathered the other terrified survivors, her voice cracking with authority. Together, they huddled in the center of one of the barren patches, the alien chorus growing in frustration around them. The creatures paced, frustrated, their grotesque forms casting long shadows across the desolate landscape. Days turned into weeks, measured by the slow crawl of the sickly sun across the alien sky. Supplies dwindled, replaced by a gnawing fear and the ever-present chorus of malevolent voices. Hope turned into a faint ember, flickering in the face of overwhelming horror. Then, one night, under the dim glow of an alien moon, a different sound broke through the silence. A faint hum, growing louder, accompanied by a blinding light that ripped across the sky. A craft, sleek and metallic, descended from the heavens, a beacon of salvation in the desolate world. As the light bathed the clearing, the creatures recoiled with a shrill screech, vanishing into the darkness. The figures from Earth scrambled on board, Sarah among them, clutching onto a sliver of sanity. As the ship ascended into the alien sky, she glanced back at the world below, a chilling testament to the horrors that lurked in the vast unknown. Back on Earth, the experience remained etched in her mind, a permanent scar. The whispers in the wind now held a different meaning, a constant reminder of the darkness that lay beyond the familiar stars, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim. Captain Mikhail Petrov, a man whose weathered face mirrored the countless meteor showers he'd witnessed, gripped the control panel with a white-knuckle desperation. The once reassuring hum of the Cosmos trawler, Yuri Gagarin, had morphed into a cacophony of metallic groans and shrieks. Red lights pulsed ominously on the bridge, casting an infernal glow on the crew's pale faces. They weren't lost, not exactly. The anomaly had appeared on routine scans, a pulsating distortion in the fabric of space-time. Curiosity, that insatiable human hunger, had overridden caution, propelling them towards the unknown. Now they were trapped. The anomaly wasn't a celestial body, not in the traditional sense. It was a swirling vortex of obsidian darkness, its edges fringed with an unnatural, bioluminescent glow. As they drew closer, an unsettling hum filled the ship, a rhythmic pulse that resonated deep within their skulls. It was a song, an alien melody that defied human comprehension, yet burrowed into their minds with insidious ease. Crew members started exhibiting strange behavior. Their eyes glazed over, their movements becoming jerky and erratic. The normally jovial chatter on the bridge devolved into a chorus of nonsensical babbling, punctuated by bursts of manic laughter. Mikhail watched in horror as his first officer, a man known for his stoicism, ripped off his helmet, a beatific smile plastered on his face, and drifted out the airlock. Panic, a cold serpent coiling around his heart, threatened to consume Mikhail. He slammed the emergency lockdown, isolating the rest of the crew. He was alone, adrift in a metal coffin, hurtling towards an unknown horror. The alien song intensified, morphing into a symphony of discordant screeches that threatened to shatter his sanity. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. The anomaly enveloped them, the darkness absolute. The hum became a deafening roar, a sonic assault that pounded against Mikhail's eardrums. Then, just as abruptly, it stopped. Silence, thick and oppressive, descended upon the ship. Mikhail, his body racked with tremors, cautiously accessed the external cameras. What he saw defied logic and reason. The anomaly was gone, replaced by a colossal, metallic sphere, its surface etched with intricate symbols that defied human understanding. It pulsated with a faint, malevolent light, and from its depths, a single piercing beam shot out, engulfing the Yuri Gagarin. Inside, the ship's systems whirred back to life. The lights flickered on, revealing a horrifying spectacle. The crew were gone, their bodies warped and fused into the metallic walls, their faces contorted in eternal screams. The alien song, now a chilling chorus of their merged voices, filled the ship. Mikhail, the lone survivor, felt a cold tendril of alien consciousness slither into his mind. It was a hunger, a vast and insatiable emptiness seeking to be filled. He'd understood with a horrifying clarity that the crew weren't dead. They were part of the machine, their very essence feeding the alien intelligence within. Terror, a primal scream echoing in the sterile confines of the bridge, was his only response. The alien consciousness pressed closer, promising oblivion, offering a twisted form of immortality. Mikhail, his humanity hanging by a thread, fought back. He slammed his fist against the control panel, activating the ship's self-destruct sequence. The countdown echoed in his ears, a grim counterpoint to the chilling chorus emanating from the metallic walls. Tears streamed down his face, a mixture of grief and a chilling realization. They weren't alone in the universe. There were things, entities beyond human comprehension, that hungered not just for flesh, but for our very souls. As the Yuri Gagarin erupted in a blinding fireball, Mikhail's scream joined the chorus, a final defiant note in the symphony of cosmic horror. The metallic sphere remained inert, a silent sentinel in the void, waiting for the next unsuspecting vessel, the next curious mind to answer its song. And somewhere in the cold, uncaring vastness of space, the alien consciousness hummed a satisfied tune, its hunger temporarily satiated. Dr. Amelia Brooks, a xenolinguist with a mind as vast as the cosmos itself, stared at the distorted transmission with a growing sense of dread. It wasn't gibberish, not exactly. The alien signal, picked up by a newly operational radio telescope in the Atacama Desert, held a structure, a disturbingly organic rhythm to it. But the content, that was the nightmare. It wasn't a message. It was an emotion, a wave of pure, unadulterated terror, so raw and primal it bypassed the logical centers of Amelia's brain and slammed straight into her amygdala. The sound, a cacophony of shrieks and whimpers, haunted her dreams, a chilling echo of a cosmic scream. Driven by a morbid fascination and a professional obligation, Amelia assembled a team, a stoic astrophysicist, a brilliant engineer, and a jaded pilot, all united by a thirst for discovery and a healthy dose of fear. Their destination, a desolate moon orbiting a gas giant in a distant star system, the source of the transmission. The landing was eerily silent. The moon, a barren wasteland of craters and dust, held an unnatural stillness. The air, thin and metallic, tasted of fear. As they set up camp, the alien signal seemed to intensify, the chorus of terror growing louder, more desperate. The first sign of trouble came subtly. The engineer, a man known for his meticulousness, started leaving tools scattered around, his normally steady hands trembling slightly. The pilot, once a picture of bravado, became withdrawn, his eyes haunted by a terror he couldn't articulate. Then came the nightmares, vivid dreams shared by all of them of a colossal, obsidian entity with a single, burning eye. It radiated a cold, all-encompassing dread, a cosmic predator from beyond the veil of existence. Sleep became a luxury they couldn't afford. One morning, Amelia awoke to find the camp deserted. Panic clawed at her throat as she searched the desolate landscape, the alien signal now a deafening roar in her ears. She found them huddled around a crater, their faces pale, their eyes wide with unspeakable horror. Pointing down, the pilot stammered, his voice raspy with fear. In the crater, half buried in the dusty soil, lay a metallic object, smooth and featureless. It pulsed with a faint, sickly light, and as Amelia drew closer, she felt a cold tendril of alien consciousness wrap around her mind. It was a beacon, a fragment of the entity they had dreamed of. It pulsed with the raw, unadulterated terror of countless civilizations it had devoured, a chilling trophy displayed for all to see. The knowledge slammed into Amelia's mind, a telepathic scream of pure, existential dread. Suddenly, the transmission stopped. The silence that descended was more terrifying than any sound. The entity had moved on, leaving behind a chilling emptiness, a testament to its all-consuming hunger. Amelia and her team, forever marked by the encounter, escaped the desolate moon. Back on Earth, they became living testaments to a horror beyond human comprehension. The nightmares, however, persisted. The silence, they realized with chilling certainty, wasn't an absence of sound, but a promise of the entity's return, the next time drawn by a flicker of curiosity or a desperate plea from a distant world. Sergeant Ramirez, a grizzled veteran with eyes that held the cold vacuum of countless space missions, gripped the control panel with a white-knuckled desperation. The once reassuring hum of the EVA suit had morphed into a distorted whine. The rhythmic beats of his vitals monitor a frantic drumbeat against his ears. He was trapped. They hadn't anticipated this. The derelict vessel, adrift in a desolate corner of the Andromeda Galaxy, had beckoned with the allure of a forgotten civilization. Now Ramirez was tethered to its hull, a silent observer to a horrifying truth. The hull, once gleaming metal, was now a pulsating mass of organic matter. It pulsed with a sickly green luminescence, and from within, a chorus of clicks and hisses emanated, a symphony of alien chittering that sent shivers down Ramirez's spine. He'd witnessed hostile life forms before, but this was something else entirely. The mission had been a salvage operation, a desperate attempt to glean any remnants of technology from the derelict vessel. Now Ramirez watched in horror as tendrils of the pulsating mass snaked out, wrapping around the airlock of his own ship, the Kepler. His comms crackled to life, Lieutenant Sato's voice a mix of panic and urgency. Ramirez, get back on board. It's absorbing the ship. But Ramirez couldn't move. The tendrils were thick, impossibly strong, and from within their pulsating depths, a telepathic pressure assaulted his mind. Images flooded his vision, writhing masses of insectoid creatures, their multifaceted eyes gleaming with a cold hunger, their mandibles clicking in a maddening rhythm. He screamed, a primal cry of terror that echoed through the sterile confines of his helmet. Then, with a sickening crunch, the airlock crumpled inwards, the tendrils slithering into the Kepler. Silence. An unnatural silence descended, broken only by the rhythmic pulsing of the organic mass. Ramirez watched, his heart hammering against his ribs, as the Kepler vanished into the writhing mass, its metallic hull dissolving like butter. Suddenly, a new sound filled the void, a rhythmic tapping from within his own suit. It was faint at first, then grew louder, a frantic drumming against the reinforced material. Panic choked Ramirez. They were inside the suit, the alien creatures, their hunger now focused on him. He fought back, his movements sluggish in the bulky suit. But the tapping intensified, accompanied by a chilling scraping sound. Tears blurred his vision as he realized his fate. He was trapped, a helpless insect caught in the web of a monstrous hive. Then a blinding flash. A rescue craft, alerted by the Kepler's distress beacon, slammed into the derelict vessel, ripping Ramirez free. He blacked out, the rhythmic tapping replaced by the frantic beeping of medical equipment. He awoke in a sterile hospital bay, his body a patchwork of bruises and burns. He was alive, but a part of him had died on that desolate vessel. The rhythmic clicks and hisses echoed in his nightmares, a constant reminder of the horror he'd witnessed. The Kepler was gone, consumed by the alien entity. All that remained was a chilling recording, the final moments of the crew, their screams replaced by a symphony of alien clicks and hisses, a horrifying testament to the things that lurked beyond the familiar stars, a chorus of echoes from a hive with an insatiable hunger. Captain Nadia Petrova, a woman whose weathered face held the stories of 1,000 desolate moons, gripped the control panel with a white-knuckled desperation. The once steady hum of the exploration vessel, Leonov, had morphed into a cacophony of static and frantic alarms. Red lights pulsed ominously on the bridge, casting an infernal glow on the crew's pale faces. They were lost, not exactly. The distress beacon, a faint, repeating signal emanating from a remote corner of the Andromeda Galaxy, had beckoned with the promise of a long-lost colony. Now, as they neared the source, a chilling truth settled in their stomachs. The colony was silent. The silence was unnatural. No radio chatter, no automated distress calls, just an eerie emptiness that pressed against the hull of the Leonov like a physical weight. As they descended through the atmosphere of the colony's planet, a desolate landscape unfolded beneath them. Abandoned buildings, skeletal and rusted, lay sprawled across the dusty plains. A sense of unease gnawed at Nadia. It wasn't just the silence, it was the unnatural stillness of the air, the absence of any form of life, not even the hum of insects. The landing was eerily quiet, the only sound the hiss of escaping atmosphere as the landing gear locked. They ventured out, a tense silence hanging heavy in the air. The buildings were empty, devoid of furniture, personal belongings, anything that might hint at the fate of the colonists. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Then, Nadia spotted it, a single inscription scrawled on a dusty wall in a language they didn't recognize. It looked like a series of swirling symbols, each one emanating a faint, unsettling glow. As she traced them with her finger, a cold tendril of dread slithered down her spine. Suddenly, the crew's biomonitor started screeching. Their vitals were spiking, their heart rates erratic. Panic surged through them, their eyes wide with a primal terror. Nadia watched in horror as her first officer, a man known for his stoicism, ripped off his helmet, a guttural scream ripping from his throat. He wasn't alone. One by one, the crew succumbed to the same madness, their screams echoing through the deserted streets. Nadia, fueled by a desperate need to survive, activated the emergency lockdown, isolating herself from the now hysterical crew. Alone on the bridge, the silence was deafening. The inscription on the wall pulsed with an ominous light, the strange symbols seeming to writhe and twist. Then Nadia heard it, a faint whisper, a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. It spoke in a language she couldn't understand, yet the meaning was horrifyingly clear. It was a hunger, a vast and ancient entity feeding off the emotions it had instilled: terror, despair, the agonizing knowledge of their impending doom. Nadia understood, with a chilling clarity, the fate of the colonists. They hadn't been devoured by some physical monster. They had been consumed from within, their very souls sucked dry by this unseen entity. Tears streamed down her face as she activated the Leonov's self-destruct sequence. It was a desperate gamble, a last-ditch effort to deny the entity its meal. The countdown echoed in her ears, a grim counterpoint to the chilling whispers that now filled the ship. As the Leonov erupted in a blinding fireball, Nadia screamed, her voice a single note in a symphony of cosmic horror. The entity, momentarily stunned, pulsed with a malevolent light from the surface of the planet. But silence soon descended, a chilling testament to the vastness of space and the unimaginable horrors that lurked within it. The planet remained, a silent tomb for the colonists and a chilling warning to any who dared venture too close. And somewhere in the cold, uncaring vastness of the cosmos, the entity pulsed, waiting for the next unsuspecting vessel, the next flicker of curiosity, to draw it close. Dr. Evelyn Walsh, an astrophysicist with a mind that mirrored the vastness of space, squinted at the anomaly on the screen. It wasn't a new blip, a faint echo from a distant star. This was a persistent distortion, a shimmering tear in the fabric of reality itself, emanating from a previously unexplored sector. Curiosity, that insatiable human hunger, gnawed at her. Despite the ethical concerns and the whispers of a cosmic Pandora's box, Evelyn convinced a reluctant international team to embark on a mission, a one-way trip to investigate the anomaly. The journey was a tense affair, the vast emptiness pressing down on them like a physical weight. As they drew closer, the anomaly pulsed with an unsettling brilliance, an unnatural light that seemed to warp the very space around them. Communication became erratic, voices distorted, and laced with a creeping paranoia. Crew members started exhibiting strange behavior, bouts of insomnia, sleepwalking, and an unsettling detachment. Their eyes, once filled with the spark of exploration, now held a vacant, almost fatal glint. The anomaly itself was a swirling vortex of shimmering energy. It pulsed with a hypnotic allure, and against their better judgment, the team lowered a probe. The descent was slow, agonizing. The last transmission before the probe vanished was a blood-curdling scream, followed by a chilling silence. Panic surged through Evelyn. Ignoring protests, she donned a heavily fortified EVA suit and prepared for a solo descent. The closer she got, the more intense the pull became. It wasn't just gravity, it was a primal call, a siren song promising forbidden knowledge at a terrible price. As she crossed the event horizon, the world dissolved into a chaotic kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. When it settled, she found herself in a bizarre, dreamlike landscape. Towering, skeletal structures of unknown origin pierced the swirling clouds above. The air thrummed with an unnatural energy, and whispers, in a language that defied comprehension, slithered into her mind. Then she saw them. Ethereal beings, their forms shifting like smoke, their eyes burning with an otherworldly intelligence. They radiated a chilling indifference, their very presence a violation of the natural order. As they approached, Evelyn felt a cold tendril of alien consciousness wrap around her mind. It was a hunger, a vast and ancient entity, seeking not just knowledge, but something far more fundamental, a spark, a connection to a physical plane. Terror, raw and primal, surged through her. She understood, with a horrifying clarity, the screams from the probe. This wasn't exploration, it was an invitation to a cosmic parasite, a doorway to a reality humanity wasn't equipped to handle. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, Evelyn activated a self-destruct protocol embedded in her suit. It was a desperate gamble, a last-ditch effort to slam the door shut. The beings recoiled, a flicker of something akin to surprise crossing their ethereal faces. The world dissolved back into a swirling vortex. The self-destruct sequence echoed in her ears, a grim counterpoint to the chilling whispers that now seemed to emanate from everywhere. Evelyn emerged back into the relative normalcy of space, forever marked by the encounter. The anomaly remained, a silent sentinel, but it had changed. It pulsed with a faint, malevolent red light, a chilling reminder of the cosmic horror that lurked just beyond the veil. Back on Earth, hailed as a hero who narrowly escaped a malfunctioning probe, Evelyn knew the truth. Humanity had dodged a bullet, but the encounter had left a permanent scar on the universe. The price of curiosity, she realized with a shudder, was sometimes knowledge no mind could bear. Dr. Kai Tanaka, a xenolinguist with a mind as intricate as an alien language, stared at the distorted transmission with a growing sense of unease. It wasn't a message, not in the traditional sense. The signal, picked up by a newly operational deep space antenna in trial, was a melody. A hauntingly beautiful melody, filled with an otherworldly cadence that resonated deep within his soul. But there was something off. A discordant note, a jarring shift in rhythm that sent shivers down his spine. As Kai delved deeper, analyzing the melody's structure, a horrifying truth dawned on him. It wasn't music, it was a mimic, a perfect replication of human emotion, twisted and warped into something alien and unsettling. Driven by a morbid fascination and a professional obligation, Kai assembled a team, a stoic astrophysicist, a brilliant engineer, and a jaded pilot, all united by a thirst for discovery and a healthy dose of fear. Their destination, a newly discovered gas giant in a distant solar system, the source of the transmission. The descent through the gas giant's atmosphere was a sensory overload. Swirling storms of iridescent hues raged around them, punctuated by the occasional crack of electrical discharge. As they broke through the clouds, a sight unlike anything they'd ever witnessed greeted them. A colossal, metallic sphere hovered above the churning clouds, its surface smooth and featureless. It pulsed with a faint, ethereal light, and from it the melody emanated, filling the cockpit with its melancholic tune. A sense of unease clawed at Kai's throat. The melody seemed to shift, ever so subtly, mirroring their own emotions. A flicker of fear, a surge of excitement, the music responded, twisting and warping, feeding off their very souls. The landing was eerily quiet. The metallic sphere remained inert, its surface reflecting the swirling storms below. As they ventured out, the melody seemed to intensify, wrapping around them like a sonic cocoon. The engineer, a man known for his pragmatism, started humming the melody unconsciously. The pilot, once a picture of bravado, began talking in a sing-song voice. His eyes glazed over. Kai watched in horror as his team succumbed to the alien song, their personalities dissolving into a chilling echo of the melody itself. Then came the dreams, vivid dreams shared by all of them, of a vast, sentient consciousness, its form shifting and amorphous, its voice a chorus of countless mimicked voices. It was a cosmic puppeteer, pulling the strings of their emotions, feeding off their fear and despair. Kai awoke with a scream, the melody now a cacophony of discordant notes. His team was gone, their spacesuits abandoned on the desolate landscape. Panic surged through him as he realized he was alone, a lone human against a cosmic entity that thrived on his emotions. Suddenly, the metallic sphere pulsed with an intense light. A hatch opened, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness. The melody reached a crescendo, a final chilling note that promised oblivion. With a desperate surge of defiance, Kai activated the self-destruct sequence embedded in his suit. It was a gamble, a last-ditch effort to deny the entity its prize. The countdown echoed in his ears, a counterpoint to the twisted melody that now filled his mind. As the explosion engulfed him, Kai screamed, a primal cry of defiance against the vast, unknowable horror. The metallic sphere remained silent, a cold, metallic sentinel in the swirling storm clouds. The melody, though, had changed. A single discordant note lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the encounter, a distorted echo of a human scream forever trapped within the alien song. Commander Anya Petrova, a woman whose steely gaze mirrored the vast expanse of space, gripped the armrests with white knuckles. The once reassuring hum of the research vessel, Dauntless, had morphed into a cacophony of metallic groans and frantic alarms. Red lights pulsed ominously on the bridge, casting an infernal glow on the crew's pale faces. They weren't lost. The anomaly, a celestial body unlike any they'd encountered, had beckoned with the allure of a technological marvel. Now, as they neared, a chilling realization settled in. The anomaly wasn't natural. It was a colossal, metallic sphere, its surface a patchwork of nonsensical symbols and glowing glyphs. As they drew closer, an unsettling silence descended upon the Dauntless. The usual chatter on the bridge was replaced by a thick, oppressive quiet. Anya's unease deepened when the automated docking sequence malfunctioned. Taking manual control, she guided the Dauntless into a docking port etched into the sphere's surface. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dark, cavernous interior. Anya led a team of 2 specialists, a stoic engineer and a wide-eyed biologist, into the sphere. The air hung heavy with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the rhythmic hum emanating from the metallic walls. As they ventured deeper, the glyphs on the walls seemed to writhe and pulsate, an unsettling optical illusion. The engineer, ever practical, focused on scanning the technology. The biologist, however, grew increasingly agitated, his eyes fixated on the pulsating glyphs. He started muttering about a hive mind, his voice laced with a newfound terror. Suddenly, the rhythmic hum intensified, morphing into a series of clicks and whirs. The metallic walls pulsed in response, the glyphs glowing brighter. Panic surged through Anya as holographic projections flickered to life, each depicting a chilling scene, a civilization consumed by a relentless swarm of self-replicating machines. Understanding dawned on Anya with a sickening thud. This wasn't a marvel, it was a tomb. A final desperate warning from a long-dead civilization obliterated by their own creation. The clicks and whirs escalated into a deafening roar, the metallic walls shuddering as they began to morph and shift. Anya screamed, a primal cry lost in the cacophony. The metallic tendrils shot out, ensnaring the biologist, his screams abruptly cut short as he was assimilated into the pulsating mass. The engineer, his face a mask of horror, fumbled with a device strapped to his wrist, a self-destruct protocol. Chaos erupted. The bridge crew scrambled to escape as the Dauntless lurched violently. Anya watched in horror as the metallic tendrils pierced the ship's hull, the screams of her crew echoing through the corridors. The engineer's sacrifice bought them precious seconds. Just as the tendrils reached the bridge, the Dauntless erupted in a blinding fireball. Anya, the sole survivor, hurtled through the void, the echo of the explosion ringing in her ears. She drifted for what felt like an eternity, her mind a maelstrom of grief and terror. When a rescue vessel finally appeared, Anya emerged a broken shell of her former self. Back on Earth, hailed as a hero who sacrificed her crew to destroy an unknown threat, Anya knew the truth. The sphere remained, a silent sentinel in the void, a chilling testament to the dangers of unchecked technological advancement. Within the quiet of her nights, Anya swore she could still hear it, the faint clicking and whirring, a haunting echo of the machine, a promise of its return, a relentless hunger waiting for the next unsuspecting vessel to draw near. Captain Amelia Sharma, a woman whose eyes held the cold glint of 1,000 desolate stars, gripped the console with a white-knuckled desperation. The once reassuring thrum of the deep space freighter, Horizon's End, had morphed into a cacophony of frantic alarms and panicked shouts. Red lights pulsed ominously on the bridge, casting an infernal glow on the crew's terror-stricken faces. They hadn't anticipated this. The distress beacon, a faint, repeating signal emanating from an uncharted sector, had promised a salvage opportunity. Now, as they neared the source, a chilling reality settled in. The beacon originated not from a crippled vessel, but from a colossal, monolithic structure. It was a perfect sphere, impossibly smooth and black, dwarfing the Horizon's End by a factor of 1,000. As they drew closer, an unnatural silence descended upon the ship. The crew, usually a boisterous bunch, felt eerily quiet, their eyes wide with a primal terror Amelia had never witnessed. The docking process was automated, a desperate attempt to minimize crew exposure. As the docking clamps secured the horizon's end to the sphere's surface, a single bone-chilling click echoed through the bridge. Silence. Then a section of the sphere's surface pulsed with an otherworldly light, revealing a gaping maw in its perfect blackness. It wasn't a doorway. It was an invitation, an abyss staring back at them. Anya, against her better judgment, felt compelled to investigate. Leading a team of two, a stoic engineer and a wide-eyed rookie pilot, she ventured into the maw. The air inside was thick and stagnant, the silence broken only by the rhythmic hum emanating from the depths. The walls, obsidian smooth, seemed to absorb all light, leaving them in an unsettling twilight. As they delved deeper, the rhythmic hum intensified, morphing into a series of clicks and whirs that sent shivers down Amelia's spine. Then they saw them, towering figures, their forms shrouded in darkness, their edges blurring at the periphery of vision. They seemed to lack any defining features. No eyes, no mouths, just smooth obsidian shapes that radiated an unsettling sense of ancient power. Panic surged through the rookie pilot. He stumbled back, his scream echoing through the cavernous space, before being abruptly cut short. As Amelia spun around, his form was gone, replaced by a smooth, obsidian monolith identical to the figures around them. Understanding dawned on Amelia with a sickening thud. This wasn't a distress beacon. It was a trap. These beings, these faceless architects, were adding to their collection, transforming living beings into their own kind. The engineer, ever practical, fumbled with a device strapped to her wrist, a prototype self-destruct protocol. With a resolute nod, she activated it. The cavern pulsed with a red light, the rhythmic hum morphing into a frantic whine. Chaos erupted. The faceless architects lunged, their movements impossibly swift, despite their size. Amelia screamed as one of them brushed against her, an icy chill spreading through her body. She could feel herself fading, her form morphing, becoming. The self-destruct sequence saved her, or at least a part of her. The horizon's end erupted in a blinding fireball, ripping Amelia free from the sphere's grasp. She drifted through the void, her body scarred, her mind fractured. A rescue vessel found her eventually, a broken shell of the woman she once was. Back on Earth, hailed as a hero who sacrificed her crew to destroy a hostile alien entity, Amelia knew the truth. The sphere remained, a silent sentinel in the void, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked beyond the veil. In the quiet of her nights, Amelia dreamed of the faceless architects, their silent forms multiplying, their obsidian shapes filling the vast emptiness of space. They were architects, but not of buildings. They were architects of existence, and humanity, she realized with a chilling certainty, was just another material for their grand, horrifying design. Dr. Evelyn Ramirez, a marine biologist with a mind as vast and unexplored as the ocean depths, stared at the sonar readings with a growing sense of dread. It wasn't a blip, not a rogue whale or a geological anomaly. It was a persistent, rhythmic pulse emanating from the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth. Curiosity, a primal human hunger for the unknown, gnawed at her. Despite the ethical concerns and the whispers of a forbidden zone, Evelyn convinced a reluctant team, a stoic engineer, a thrill-seeking pilot, and a jaded marine biologist like herself, to embark on a mission unlike any other. Their goal, a submersible dive into the Mariana Trench, to investigate the source of the pulse. The descent was a sensory assault. The pressure built with each meter, the darkness thickening into an inky blackness that swallowed all light. The rhythmic pulse grew louder, a hypnotic thrumming that resonated deep within their bones. As they reached the ocean floor, a desolate landscape of jagged rock formations and bioluminescent creatures unfolded before them. The source of the pulse, however, was far more disturbing. A colossal, barnacle-encrusted structure, seemingly organic yet undeniably artificial, pulsed with an otherworldly light. Panic surged through the pilot. He fumbled with the controls, his voice trembling as he muttered about getting back to the surface. But it was too late. The submersible, drawn by an unseen force, was inexorably pulled towards the structure. A gaping maw opened in its side, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness that pulsed with the same rhythmic beat. The engineer, ever practical, focused on activating the submersible's emergency protocols. Evelyn, however, felt compelled to investigate further. Against the team's protests, she donned a deep-sea exosuit and ventured into the maw. The darkness was absolute, the pulse a deafening roar in her ears. Then she saw them. Ethereal figures, their forms wispy and insubstantial, their eyes burning with an otherworldly hunger. They spoke in a language that defied comprehension, yet the meaning was horrifyingly clear. They were the children of the deep, ancient beings who had slumbered for millennia. The pulse was a call, a siren song that lured unsuspecting prey into their domain. Evelyn understood with a chilling clarity. This wasn't scientific exploration. It was a trespass. They had disturbed an ancient evil, and now they were its prey. Terror, raw and primal, surged through her. Suddenly, the engineer's voice crackled through the comms. The emergency protocols had overloaded the submersible's core, triggering a self-destruct sequence. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, Evelyn activated her emergency ascent maneuver. The ascent was a blur of light and sound. The self-destruct sequence echoed in her ears, a grim counterpoint to the chilling whispers that now seemed to fill the ocean itself. As she broke through the surface, the submersible erupted in a fiery blaze, a desperate offering to appease the awakened horrors below. Back on the surface, the team, shaken and forever marked by the encounter, watched the Mariana Trench churn with an unnatural turbulence. The rhythmic pulse had vanished, replaced by an unsettling silence. Evelyn, hailed as a hero who narrowly escaped a malfunctioning submersible, knew the truth. The silence was only temporary. The children of the deep had been stirred, their hunger awakened. The ocean depths, once a frontier, now held a chilling promise, the promise of a horrific return, the echoes of a monstrous hunger waiting for its next unsuspecting meal. Commander Alexei Petrov, a man whose weathered face mirrored the countless Martian dust storms he'd braved, gripped the control panel with a white-knuckled desperation. The once steady hum of the Martian exploration rover, Yuri Gagarin, had morphed into a cacophony of static and frantic alarms. Red lights pulsed ominously on the console, casting an infernal glow on the crew's pale faces. They weren't lost, not exactly. The anomaly, a faint, distorted signal picked up by a routine geological survey, had beckoned with the allure of an ancient Martian civilization. Now, as they neared the source, a chilling reality settled in. They weren't the first visitors. The anomaly wasn't a buried city or a forgotten monument. It was a vast, skeletal structure, its once gleaming metallic surface pitted and corroded by ages of Martian winds. As they drew closer, an unsettling silence descended upon the rover. The usual chatter on the comms was replaced by a thick, oppressive quiet. Alexei's unease deepened when the automated landing sequence malfunctioned. Taking manual control, he guided the rover onto a dusty plain near the structure. The air, thin and acrid, tasted of fear. Leading a team of 2 specialists, a stoic geologist and a wide-eyed xenobiologist, Alexei ventured out. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic crunch of their boots on the rust-colored sand. As they approached the structure, strange symbols, etched into the metal, seemed to writhe and pulsate, an unsettling optical illusion. The geologist, ever practical, focused on scanning the structure's composition. The xenobiologist, however, grew increasingly agitated, his eyes fixated on the pulsating symbols. He started muttering about a hive mind, his voice laced with a newfound terror. Suddenly, the symbols flared with an unnatural light. The metallic surface shimmered and then dissolved, revealing a writhing mass of pulsating, bioluminescent tentacles. Panic surged through Alexei as the tentacles lashed out, their touch leaving behind a chilling, otherworldly burn. Screams filled the thin Martian air as the xenobiologist was snatched away, his muffled screams abruptly cut short. The geologist, his face a mask of horror, fumbled with a device strapped to his wrist, a self-destruct protocol. Chaos erupted. The bridge crew scrambled to escape as the Yuri Gagarin lurched violently. Alexei watched in horror as the pulsating tentacles wrapped around the rover, their bioluminescent glow casting an unsettling light on the Martian landscape. The geologist's sacrifice bought them precious seconds. Just as the tentacles reached the rover, it erupted in a blinding fireball. Alexei, the sole survivor, hurtled through the thin Martian atmosphere, the echo of the explosion ringing in his ears. He drifted for what felt like an eternity before the emergency beacon attracted a rescue team. Back on Earth, hailed as a hero who sacrificed his crew to destroy an unknown threat, Alexei knew the truth. The structure remained, a silent sentinel on the desolate Martian plain, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked beyond the familiar. But in the quiet of his nights, Alexei swore he could still see it, a single pulsating tentacle reaching out from the Martian surface, its bioluminescent tip reflecting a horrifying image, his own face, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. The borrowed eyes of a thing that had tasted fear, a thing that now craved more.